Imagine waking up in Philadelphia on a morning that feels just a little too quiet. The air hangs heavy, like the city's holding its breath before a scream. That's where our story begins. A tale so wild it feels like it could have happened yesterday. My name's Ethan Caldwell, a former Marine turned private security contractor. I've spent years keeping people safe, from dusty outposts in Iraq to polished boardrooms back home. That day, my job was simple. Shadow Councilman Daniel Hargrove through a packed schedule of campaign stops. But simple doesn't last long when the world decides to flip upside down. It was early, sun barely creeping over the skyline, when I first noticed something off. The usual hum of the city was pierced by distant sirens, more than you'd expect even for Philly on a busy day. I was too locked into care, though, running through my mental checklist. Keep Hargrove in sight, clear the routes, stay sharp. We were headed to a breakfast fundraiser at the Ritz-Carlton, one of those swanky events where donors fork over $5,000 for eggs and a handshake. I'd done this gig a dozen times since signing on with Hargrove's team a year back. Routine, predictable, safe, or so I thought. The hotel lobby buzzed with the kind of energy you'd expect, suits chatting over coffee, staff darting around with trays. I posted up near the ballroom entrance, scanning faces, clocking exits. My earpiece crackled with updates from the team, all clear so far. But then I caught it, a maid by the service door, her hands trembling as she stared at her phone. She wasn't moving, wasn't working, just frozen. Weird, but I brushed it off. People get distracted. Happens all the time. Inside the ballroom, Hargrove worked the crowd like a pro, all smiles and firm grips. I stayed close, eyes flicking between him and the room. That's when the first real red flag hit. A busboy fumbled a stack of plates, sending them crashing to the floor in a symphony of shattered porcelain. Heads turned, a few donors chuckled, but the kid didn't apologize or scramble to clean it up. He just stood there, pale as a ghost, thumbs hammering his phone screen. I stepped closer to Hargrove, my gut tightening. Something was brewing. I could feel it, that same itch I'd get right before a firefight overseas. "Sir," I murmured, leaning in as he glad-handed some oil exec. "We might want to cut this short. Head to the office early." Hargrove shot me a look, half annoyed, half amused. "Caldwell, these folks paid good money to see me. We're staying till I've pressed every palm in here." Stubborn bastard. I'd learned not to push too hard with him. He was decent, cared about his people, but once he dug in, you'd need a crowbar to move him. So I nodded, stepped back, and kept my watch. The room hummed along for another 10 minutes before the next domino fell. My phone buzzed, a sharp, urgent tone I hadn't heard since my service days. I glanced down. Emergency alert. Shelter in place ordered for Greater Philadelphia area. Remain indoors. Avoid contact with aggressive or unstable individuals. Stand by for further instructions. My hand slid to the SIG sour tucked under my jacket, the familiar weight grounding me. I'd carried one just like it through Baghdad, where I'd learned fast that calm could turn to chaos in a heartbeat. I scanned the crowd again. People were starting to notice. Donors pulling out phones, their murmurs growing sharper, tighter. Across the room, I locked eyes with Mia Torres, my second on the detail. She was ex-Navy, sharp as hell, posted by the far exit. I gave her the signal, 2 fingers tapped against my chest. "Tighten up." She nodded, shifting closer to the door. That's when the screams started. They ripped through the air from the lobby. High, jagged, the kind that make your blood run cold. Glass shattered somewhere close, followed by a sound that might have been a gunshot, or maybe a chair smashing into a wall. The ballroom doors flew open, and a bellhop stumbled in, clutching his arm. Blood poured between his fingers, bright red against his white uniform. "They're losing it," he gasped, eyes wild. "They're attacking. Oh God." The blood. He hit the floor hard, body jerking like he'd been tossed, then went still. Panic erupted like a damn grenade. Donors bolted for the exits, some tripping over chairs, others shoving past each other. A woman in a pearl necklace froze, staring at the bellhop's twitching corpse. I didn't wait to figure out what they meant. I grabbed Hargrove's arm. "Time's up, sir. We're moving." For once, he didn't argue, his face pale as the chaos swallowed the room. Mia was already at my side, covering our flank as we pushed toward the kitchen, the fastest way to our evac route. The sounds followed us. More screams, crashing furniture, something guttural that didn't sound human. My earpiece lit up with chatter from the team. "Main entrance is a no-go," our driver, Leo, barked. "Hostiles in the lobby, multiple. Holy shit. They're tearing people apart." I didn't ask for clarification. Didn't need it. The kitchen was a war zone of its own. Pots overturned, a fryer still sizzling like nothing was wrong. A cook crouched behind a counter, sobbing into her apron. We didn't stop. Hargrove stayed tight between me and Mia, his breathing ragged but steady. I'd give him that. He wasn't crumbling yet. Then a shadow lurched from the pantry. One of the staff, a big guy in a stained apron, but something was wrong. His movements were off, twitchy, like a puppet with cut strings. His eyes were blank, blood smeared across his jaw. He snarled, a sound that hit me like a punch, and charged. I didn't think. Muscle memory took over. 2 shots, center mass. The rounds staggered him, but he kept coming, arms flailing. Iraq flashed through my mind. Insurgents hopped up on adrenaline, shrugging off hits. I adjusted, aimed high. 1 clean shot to the forehead. He dropped like a sack of bricks. "Go!" I snapped, shoving Hargrove forward. Mia took point, leading us to the service exit. We burst into the alley behind the hotel, morning light blinding after the dim kitchen. The city sounded wrong, sirens everywhere, car horns blaring, screams echoing off the buildings. Our ride, a blacked-out Tahoe, waited at the loading dock, Leo white-knuckling the wheel. "Vehicle's good," he said through my earpiece, "but we've got company closing in from the street." I saw them, maybe 10 figures staggering toward us, their gaits jerky, unnatural. Blood stained their clothes, their faces vacant but hungry. "In," I barked, practically tossing Hargrove into the back seat. Mia slid in beside him, slamming the door as I jumped shotgun. "Leo, punch it. Campaign HQ's out, too hot. Get us to the safe house in Chestnut Hill." The Tahoe roared to life, peeling out as those things, whatever they were, lunged at us. Clawed hands scraped the windows, but we were gone, tearing through the alley. In the rear view, I glimpsed the hotel's back doors swinging open, more of them spilling out, attacking anything that moved. The screams chased us, fading as we hit the open road. Hargrove sat rigid, staring out the window. "Caldwell," he said, voice low, "what the hell is this?" I didn't have an answer, not yet. My phone buzzed again, vibrating against my thigh. A text from my brother, Ryan, up in Allentown with his kid, Lily. "You seeing this? News says something's spreading. We're scared, man." I wanted to reply, to tell him to lock down and wait for me, but I couldn't. Not yet. Hargrove was priority 1. Get him safe, then figure out the rest. 1 fire at a time. The streets were unraveling fast. Smoke curled up from Center City, helicopters buzzing overhead like angry wasps. Leo weaved through traffic, abandoned cars clogging the lanes, drivers running on foot. I caught glimpses of them. The infected, I guess you'd call them, shambling between vehicles, chasing stragglers. "Take Kelly Drive," I told Leo. "Main roads are death traps." He nodded, jaw tight, and swung us onto the quieter route along the river. My earpiece crackled again. "All teams, this is command. Military's locking down the city. Bridges close in 30. Primary safe house is compromised. Reroute to secondary location." I cursed under my breath. Chestnut Hill was out. The backup spot was further, a stash house in Roxborough. More ground to cover, more risk. But we didn't have a choice. Hargrove's phone rang. His wife, Patricia, probably calling from their place in Haverford. He fumbled it to his ear. "Pat, you okay?" The girls, his face darkened. Line's dead. He looked at me, eyes hard but cracking. My family, Caldwell. I need to know they're safe. I met his gaze in the mirror. Sir, we get you secure first. Then we'll find them. That's the deal. He nodded, but I could see it eating at him. Same way Ryan and Lily were eating at me. The city blurred past, burning storefronts, people fighting over gas cans, the infected growing thicker by the minute. My phone buzzed again. Ryan, military's here. They're not letting anyone out. What do? I typed fast, stay put. Barricade. I'll come for you. I hit send, praying it wasn't a lie. Up ahead, the road narrowed, a crashed delivery truck blocking half the lane. Shapes moved inside the wreckage, more of them, spilling out like roaches. Threaded, I told Leo, gripping my seat. Full speed. He floored it, the Tahoe scraping past with a screech of metal. The infected turned, reaching, but we broke through, leaving them in the dust. Roxborough loomed closer, but smoke rose from that direction too. The safe house was our last shot, and something told me it wasn't going to be the sanctuary we needed. The day wasn't even half done, and Philly was a graveyard. I had to keep Hargrove alive, get his family out, and somehow reach Ryan and Lily. The weight settled on my chest, heavy but familiar. This was what I trained for. Adapt, survive, protect. Whatever came next, I'd face it head on. Because that's what you do when the world falls apart. You keep moving. The Tahoe roared through the back streets of Roxborough, tires screeching as Leo hugged the curves. Philadelphia was coming apart at the seams, smoke choking the skyline, sirens wailing like a chorus of the damned. I kept my eyes on the road ahead, but my mind was split 3 ways. Keep Councilman Hargrove breathing, get his family out of Haverford, and make damn sure Ryan and Lily were still safe in Allentown. The weight of it all pressed on me, but I'd carried worse. Iraq taught me that, when the world burns, you don't stop to feel the heat. You move. ETA to the safe house. I asked Leo, my voice steady despite the chaos. 5 minutes, he shot back, swerving around a wrecked sedan. If the streets hold. That was a big if. Kelly Drive had been a gamble, but it bought us some distance from the madness downtown. Out here, though, the quiet was deceptive. Abandoned cars dotted the road, doors flung open like their owners had bolted mid-breath. I spotted a kid's backpack spilled across the asphalt, crayons and a juice box scattered in the dirt. My gut twisted. Lily had one just like it. Hargrove sat rigid in the back, clutching his phone like it might still ring. Patricia's not picking up, he muttered, more to himself than me. The girls, God, what if he didn't finish? Didn't need to. I'd seen that look before, on civilians caught in war zones, when hope starts slipping through their fingers. Sir, I said, keeping my tone firm, we'll get to them. First, we secure you. Then we move. He nodded, but his eyes stayed hollow. Mia, posted beside him, caught my gaze in the mirror. Her jaw was set, hands resting on her holster. She didn't say it, but I knew she felt the clock ticking same as I did. The radio crackled, cutting through the tension. All units, militaries establishing a quarantine zone. Philly's locked down in 20 mics. Bridges are hot. Expect resistance. The voice was clipped, strained. Then a second transmission. Safe House Bravo compromised. Proceed to alternate site. St. Mary's School, Manayunk. I cursed under my breath. Roxborough was a bust. Manayunk was closer to the river, tighter streets, more choke points. Riskier, but we were running out of cards. New plan, I told Leo. Swing west, hit Manayunk. St. Mary's is our holdout. He didn't argue, just yanked the wheel hard, sending us down a side road. The Tahoe jolted over a curb, and Hargrove braced himself against the door. Caldwell, you sure about this? He asked, voice tight. No choice, sir, I said. Military's closing the net. We stay ahead of it, or we're trapped. He didn't push back. Maybe he was finally getting it. This wasn't a campaign trail anymore. This was survival. The streets narrowed as we closed in on Manayunk. Victorian row houses loomed on either side, Windows dark or smashed. A dog barked somewhere, sharp and frantic, then went silent. Too silent. My hand rested on my SIG, thumb brushing the grip. Then I saw it, a flicker of movement up ahead. Shapes staggering out from an alley, maybe a dozen of them. Same jerky gait, same vacant stares, blood crusting their clothes. The infected. Tangos, 12 o'clock, Mia called, voice low. They're clocking us. Faster than the hotel bunch, Leo added, knuckles whitening on the wheel. He was right. These ones moved with purpose, heads snapping toward the Tahoe's growl. Fresh, maybe. Hungrier. Don't stop, I ordered. Plow through if you have to. This rig can take it. The Tahoe was armored, bulletproof glass, reinforced frame. A battering ram if we needed it. Leo floored it, engine roaring as we barreled toward the pack. They didn't scatter like people would have. They lunged, hands clawing at the hood, faces smashing against the windshield. The glass held, but the sound, wet thuds and guttural snarls, sent a shiver down my spine. We punched through, bodies tumbling in our wake, and kept rolling. Jesus, Hargrove whispered, staring at the rear view. One of them was still moving, dragging itself after us on broken legs. I didn't look back. No point. St. Mary's School came into view a block later. A squat brick building with iron gates and a parking lot ringed by trees. Quiet for now. No smoke, no bodies. A decent spot to dig in if we could hold it. Pull up, I told Leo. Mia, take point. Clear the approach. She was out the door before we stopped, rifle up, sweeping the lot. I helped Hargrove out, keeping him low. Stay tight, sir. Move when I say. The air smelled wrong. Acrid, like burning rubber and something sour underneath. Mia signaled clear, and we hustled toward the main entrance. The doors were locked, glass reinforced. Good. I pulled a lockpick from my kit. Tricks you don't learn in the Corps, but pick up fast in this line of work. 30 seconds, and we were in. The school was a time capsule. Lockers lining the halls, posters for a spring play still taped up. A whiteboard read pizza day tomorrow. In bubbly marker. The normalcy of it hit me like a punch. Yesterday, kids were here. Now, I shook it off. Focus. Second floor, I said. Find a room with sight lines and exits. Mia led the way, boots silent on the tile. We hit the library, big windows overlooking the street, 2 doors, heavy oak tables we could barricade. Perfect. Sir, stay back from the glass. I told Hargrove as Mia, and I swept the space. Clear. For now. My tactical radio buzzed. Caldwell, you copy? It was command, voice frayed. Military's pulling back. Infection spiking, exponential. Newton checkpoints your evac, but it's a haul. Bridges close in 15. Static swallowed the rest. I keyed back. Caldwell here, at alternate with package. Need extraction options. Nothing. Dead air. Hargrove was at the window, phone pressed to his ear again. Still no answer. He said, voice cracking. Patricia, the girls, they're out there, Caldwell. I crossed to him, keeping my tone level. Sir, we've got a shot at Newton. Military's holding there. We get you safe, then we go for them. He turned, eyes blazing. And if they're all ready, he stopped, swallowing hard. I knew that fear. Ryan's last text burned in my pocket. Military's here. They're not letting anyone out. Lily's face flashed in my head. 6 years old, all giggles and braids. I shoved it down. Compartmentalize. Always. Sir, I said, we split the team. Mia and Leo take you to Newton. I'll head to Haverford, get your family out. Then I swing north for mine. Mia's head snapped up. Ethan, that's against protocol. We don't split the detail. Protocol's dead, I shot back. Look around. We're improvising now. Hargrove studied me, his politician's mask gone, just a man staring down the abyss. You're sure about this? No, I admitted. But your family's got no one else. Neither does mine. A boom rattled the windows, something big, miles off. The city was crumbling faster than I'd thought. My phone buzzed again. Ryan. People fighting outside. Lily's crying. Tell me what to do. I typed fast. Lock everything. Stay quiet. I'm coming. Hargrove nodded, slow, like he was weighing a vote that'd haunt him. Get them out, Caldwell. My girl's my wife. Then your people. That's an order. I almost smiled. Even now, he thought he was in charge. Yes, sir, I said. We move now. Mia grabbed my arm as we headed downstairs. You're crazy, you know that? Solo run in this mess. I shrugged. Done worse in Fallujah. You just keep him alive. She didn't argue, just clapped my shoulder. Don't die, asshole. Leo had the Tahoe ready, engine idling. I did a quick gear check. SIG, extra mags, knife, med kit. Then I spotted it. A Philly PD bike parked by the gate, keys still in the ignition. Smaller, quieter than the Tahoe. Perfect for what came next. Take that, I told myself, already moving. The plan was set. Mia and Leo would haul Hargrove to Newton, link up with the military. I'd ride to Haverford, extract Patricia and the girls, then burn rubber for Allentown. Simple on paper. Hell in practice. I straddled the bike, fired it up. The engine purred, low and mean. Mia and Hargrove piled into the Tahoe, Leo gunning it toward the checkpoint. I watched them go, then turned west. Haverford was 20 minutes out if I pushed it. Allentown another hour after that. Tight, but doable. The streets were a graveyard. Cars smoldering, bodies sprawled where they'd fallen. I kept low, weaving through the wreckage. The infected were thicker here, drawn to the noise of a dying city. One lunged from a busted storefront, a woman in a torn blazer, teeth bared. I swerved, drew my knife, and slashed as I passed. Quick, clean, no shots. Gunfire would bring more. Haverford's suburbs rolled into view. All picket fences and manicured lawns turned war zone. I killed the engine a block from Hargrove's place, stashing the bike behind a shed. On foot now, sticking to shadows. The house was a 2-story colonial, white shutters, red door. I'd cased it months back for security drills. Now I scanned for breaches. Windows intact. No blood trails. Good signs. A rustle behind me. Soft, too close. I spun, knife up. One of them, a guy in a delivery uniform, shambling from the neighbor's yard. I closed the gap fast, drove the blade into his skull. He dropped without a sound. Stealth was my edge. Couldn't lose it. The front door was locked, security system blinking green. I punched in the code, same one I'd memorized during setup. The lock clicked. Mrs. Hargrove? I called, low and steady. It's Ethan Caldwell, councilman's detail. I'm here to get you out. A shadow moved in the hall. Patricia Hargrove stepped forward, a fireplace poker in her hands, her teenage daughters, Sophie and Grace, clinging behind her. Ethan, her voice shook, but she lowered the weapon. Thank God. We heard. On the TV, before it cut out. No time, I cut in. Pack light, 1 bag each. Water, clothes, meds. 5 minutes. They nodded, scrambling upstairs. I swept the ground floor, clear, but the street outside was stirring. Shapes moving between houses. We were on borrowed time. My phone buzzed. Ryan again. They're breaking in next door. Hurry. I gripped it hard, willing myself to stay focused. Hargrove's family first, then mine. One mission at a time. A crash upstairs snapped me back. Glass shattering, heavy footsteps thumping above. Back door. I hissed, racing to meet them. Patricia and the girls stumbled down, bags slung over their shoulders. Something's in the house, Sophie whispered, eyes wide. Move, I said, shoving them toward the exit. Whatever it was, we weren't sticking around to find out. The clock was ticking, and the fire was closing in. The back door of the Hargrove house swung open into a world that didn't make sense anymore. Haverford's quiet streets, once all tidy lawns and minivans, were a ghost town, punctuated by distant screams and the occasional crack of gunfire. Patricia gripped Sophie and Grace tight, their faces pale but resolute, bags slung over their shoulders. I told them 5 minutes, and they delivered. Practical clothes, water bottles, a bottle of aspirin stuffed in Grace's backpack. Good. We weren't hiking for comfort. We were running for our lives. Stay close, I whispered, SIG sour in one hand, knife in the other. Quiet as you can. If I say drop, you hit the ground. They nodded, fear sharpening their focus. I'd seen that look before. Civilians in Mosul, wide-eyed but clinging to every word when death was close. The thumping upstairs grew louder, glass crunching under heavy feet. Whatever had broken in was coming down fast. The bike was too exposed now, parked a block away and useless with 3 extra bodies. My eyes locked on the garage, Patricia's silver Audi, keys dangling from her trembling hand. That'll do, I said. When I lift the door, you run for it. Patricia, you drive. I'll cover. She swallowed hard, nodded. Sophie clutched Grace's arm, the younger girl's breath hitching. I gripped the garage handle, muscles coiling. 3, 2, 1, I heaved it up. The screech of metal on metal ripped through the silence, a beacon for anything with ears. Heads turned down the street. 5, maybe 6 of them, staggering out from porches and driveways. The infected. Their eyes were dead, but their bodies moved too fast, drawn to the noise like moths to a flame. Go, I barked. Patricia and the girls sprinted for the Audi, doors slamming as I leveled my SIG. The first one, a guy in a ripped tracksuit, lurched into the garage. 2 shots, headshot clean, and he crumpled. Another followed, a woman with blood-matted hair. I fired again, the crack echoing off the walls. More were coming, too many. Start it, I yelled, backing toward the passenger side. The engine sputtered, then roared. Patricia fumbled the keys once, twice, before it caught. An infected reached the garage just as I slid in, its hands clawing at my door. I slammed it shut, glass thumping under its fists. Floor it. She did, peeling out with a screech, the thing tumbling back as we shot down the driveway. The street was a blur, shapes lunging from yards, hands scraping the car. Grace shrieked in the back, Sophie pulling her down below the windows. Keep low, I ordered, twisting to scan our 6. The infected were everywhere now, spilling from houses, drawn by the engine's growl. Head east, I told Patricia. We'll loop to I-476, hit the Newton checkpoint. Military's holding there. She gripped the wheel, eyes locked ahead. What about Daniel? Her voice shook, but she kept it together. Hargrove's wife had steel in her, I'd give her that. He's with Mia and Leo, I said. They're on their way to Newton. We'll meet them. I didn't mention the if. No point. Either they'd make it, or they wouldn't. Same went for us. The Audi tore through Haverford's suburbs, weaving past abandoned cars and debris. A stroller sat overturned in a cul-de-sac, a grim reminder of how fast this had spiraled. Smoke thickened the air, curling up from Philly's core. Then a boom, deep, rolling, like thunder with teeth. Multiple blasts followed, lighting the skyline south of us. What was that? Sophie whispered, peeking up. Military, I said, checking my mag, probably bombing runs. Containment. Or desperation. I'd heard those sounds in Fallujah. Artillery leveling blocks to stop an enemy that wouldn't quit. If they were hitting Philly, the infection was worse than I'd thought. Patricia swerved around a pickup blocking the road, tires squealing. The news said it started downtown, she muttered. Something about a lab, a spill, then it cut out. I didn't press her. Rumors didn't matter now. Only the road did. My phone buzzed, Ryan again. Breaking glass next door. Lily won't stop crying. Where are you? My chest tightened. Allentown was an hour north, maybe more with the mess we were in. I typed quick, hold tight. I'm coming. Stay out of sight. Sent. No reply. I forced the worry down. Hargrove's family first, then mine. The streets ahead cleared for a stretch. Everyone who could run had already gone. But the infected were trickling out now, lone figures at first, then clusters. A man in a suit stumbled from a gas station, blood dripping from his chin. A kid, no older than Grace, shambled from a playground, dragging a broken leg. "Don't look," I told the girls, but Sophie's eyes stayed glued to the window, wide and unblinking. "Checkpoint's 10 miles, I said, pulling up a mental map. "Stick to back roads. For 76 LL be a parking lot." Patricia nodded, turning onto a quieter stretch. The Audi hummed, cutting through the stillness. For a moment, I let myself hope we'd outrun it. Then the roadblock hit. It wasn't military, too sloppy, too desperate. A hodgepodge of cars and furniture barricaded the street, manned by a handful of locals with guns. Hunting rifles, a shotgun, one guy waving a pistol like he'd seen too many movies. They flagged us down, shouting over the wind. "Stop! Turn back!" "Armed civilians," I said, voice low. 12 o'clock. Could be trouble. Patricia slowed, hands trembling. "They're just scared," she said, echoing Hargrove's take back at the hotel. "Trying to protect what's theirs." "Scared people shoot first," I replied. "We don't engage." I'd seen it overseas. Panic turns good folks into threats fast. "Swing right. 2 blocks, then north." She hesitated, then gunned it, veering off as the guy with the pistol fired. The rear window spiderwebbed, bulletproof, glass holding firm. Grace yelped, ducking lower. "They're shooting at us." Sophie cried. "Keep moving," I snapped. "It'll hold." The Audi fishtailed around a corner, leaving the barricade behind. My pulse steadied. Close, but we were clear. The radio flickered on, emergency broadcast cutting through static. "Containment in progress. All civilians evacuate to designated zones." Martial law declared. "Infected individuals will be neutralized on site." I killed it. No use spooking them more. We hit a residential stretch, houses dark and silent. The infected were thicker here, drawn by some noise we couldn't hear. A woman in a bathrobe lunged from a porch, slamming into the driver's side. Patricia swerved, cursing under her breath. "They're everywhere," she said, voice cracking. "Focus," I told her. Eyes on the road. My own were on the mirrors, more shapes closing in, their moans rising over the engine. We couldn't stop. Not now. Newton loomed closer, maybe 5 miles out. The checkpoint was our lifeline, if it still stood. My earpiece buzzed, faint but alive. "Caldwell, it's Mia. We're at Newton. Military's here, but it's Harry. Where you at?" Relief hit me, sharp and brief. "En route with Hargrove's family." I keyed back. 5 mics. "Hold position." Static answered, then her voice cut through. "Hurry. It's getting ugly." Connection dropped. "Almost there," I told Patricia. "Stay sharp." She nodded, knuckles white. The girls huddled in the back, silent now, fear locking them down. I checked my phone, another text from Ryan. "Hiding in basement." "They're inside now." My stomach dropped. Allentown was falling, and I was still here. Up ahead, the road twisted toward the checkpoint. Humvees lined the horizon, floodlights cutting through the haze. Soldiers in hazmat suits waved cars through, rifles up. But the crowd was thick, people shoving, screaming, some clawing at the barricades. And beyond them, the infected, pressing in like a tide. "Slow down," I said. "We blend in, roll up easy." Patricia eased off the gas, merging with the snarl of vehicles. A soldier banged on the hood, shouting through his mask. "ID." "Now." I flashed my contractor badge, old but legit. "Security detail. Councilman Hargrove's family." He scanned it, waved us forward. "Move." Slots closing. The Audi crept through, soldiers parting the chaos. I spotted the Tahoe, Mia leaning against it, Hargrove pacing nearby. Safe. For now. We pulled up, and Patricia threw the door open, running to Hargrove. Sophie and Grace piled out, crashing into their dad. I stayed back, letting them have it. Mia jogged over, her face grim. "You made it. Thought you'd gone rogue for good." "Close enough," I said, holstering my SIG. "They're secure." "You." She nodded. "Checkpoint's holding, but not for long. Military's pulling out soon, strategic retreat." Hargrove broke from the huddle, striding over. "Caldwell, you got them out." "Aye." He stopped, throat tight. Thank you. I nodded. My job, sir. But it wasn't done. Not yet. I pulled my phone. Ryan's last text staring back. They're inside. No new messages. No calls. Mia, I said, voice low, I'm not staying. My brother, my niece, they're in Allentown. I'm going. Her eyes narrowed. Ethan, that's a suicide run. City's locked. You won't. She stopped, reading my face. Fine. Take the bike. But you owe me a damn beer when you're back. Deal, I said, clapping her shoulder. Hargrove overheard, stepped closer. You've done enough, Caldwell. Stay with us. Appreciate it, sir, I replied. But family's family. He didn't argue, just nodded, a man who'd nearly lost his own. The bike waited where I'd left it, engine still warm. I swung on, revving it hard. Newton faded behind me as I tore north, the checkpoint's lights swallowed by smoke. Allentown was a long shot, roads clogged, infected everywhere, military pulling back. But Ryan and Lily were there, waiting, scared, counting on me. The wind whipped past, cold and bitter. Philly burned in my rear view, a city I'd sworn to protect now eating itself alive. I'd gotten Hargrove's family out. Now it was my turn. One last run through the ashes, and I wasn't stopping till I had them. The bike's engine growled beneath me as I tore north from Newton, the checkpoint's floodlights fading into a haze of smoke and desperation. Philadelphia was a memory now, a burning scar on the horizon, its streets choked with the infected and the dying. I'd gotten Councilman Hargrove and his family to safety, kept my promise, but the job wasn't done. Ryan and Lily were out there, holed up in Allentown, and every second I wasn't with them felt like a knife twisting in my gut. The road ahead stretched dark and uncertain, but I'd made a vow, silent, steel hard, and I wasn't breaking it. The wind bit at my face, cold and relentless, as I pushed the Philly PD bike to its limit. I-476 was a no-go, too many cars abandoned, too many shadows moving between them. I stuck to back roads, winding through sleepy towns turned slaughterhouses. Quakertown flashed by, storefronts smashed, a gas station smoldering, bodies sprawled where they'd fallen. The infected were everywhere, their numbers swelling like a plague I couldn't outrun. But I had to. For them. My phone hadn't buzzed since Ryan's last text. They're inside. No signal now, just a dead screen mocking me from my pocket. Allentown was 40 miles out, close enough to hope, far enough to kill me if I screwed up. I'd done longer treks in worse shape, humping gear through Iraqi deserts with bullets flying. This was different, though. This wasn't a mission for country or paycheck. This was family. The road dipped into a wooded stretch, trees clawing at the sky. Quiet here, almost peaceful, until a figure stumbled from the brush, a guy in a flannel shirt, blood streaking his face. He didn't moan, didn't hesitate, just charged. I swerved, drew my knife mid-lean, and slashed as I passed. The blade bit deep, and he dropped without a sound. No shots if I could help it. Noise was a death sentence now. Allentown's outskirts crept into view 20 minutes later, the bike's fuel gauge flirting with empty. I ditched it behind a rusted shed, grabbing my gear. SIG sour, knife, a half-empty med kit. On foot was slower, but quieter, and stealth was all I had left. The city was a war zone. National Guard barricades toppled, Humvees flipped and burning, infected roaming in packs. Downtown thrummed with chaos, gunfire popping like firecrackers, but the residential pockets were eerily still. That's where Ryan lived. A modest split level on a corner lot, a place I'd crashed at after deployments, Lily toddling around with her crayons. I stuck to alleys, ducking behind fences and overturned trash cans. The infected were drawn to noise, and something big was pulling them toward the city center. Screams, maybe, or a last stand gone wrong. Good. Kept them off me. Ryan Street came up fast, and I crouched low, scanning. No broken windows, no blood on the siding. The front door was shut tight, a tricycle tipped over in the yard. Lily's, from last summer when I'd taught her to pedal, her giggles echoing in my head. Hope flickered, small but fierce. I slipped to the back, our old fallback spot from family drills. 3 quick knocks, pause, 2 more. The signal. Silence stretched, then a faint scrape, furniture shifting. The door cracked open, and Ryan's face appeared, pale and hollow. "Ethan," he rasped, pulling me in fast. Lily clung to his leg, eyes red, a crayon clutched in her fist. I hugged them both, hard, relief crashing over me like a wave. "You're okay," I said, voice rough. "You're okay." Ryan locked the door, shoving a couch back against it. "Barely. They got in next door, smashed everything. We've been in the basement since." Lily buried her face in my side, trembling. "Uncle Ethan," she whispered, "the monsters." "I know, kiddo," I said, kneeling to her level. "But I'm here now. We're getting out." Ryan grabbed 2 bags from the corner, pre-packed, just like I'd drilled into him years ago. Water, blankets, a flashlight. "Guard pulled back an hour ago," he said. "Radio said there's an evac point in Bethlehem. Still holding, last we heard. 10 miles east." I calculated. "We can make it." "Car?" Ryan nodded. "Garage. Full tank." I kept it ready, like you said. I almost smiled. He'd listened. That might save us. A crash outside cut me off, metal bins toppling, followed by a low, guttural moan. I edged to the window, peering through the blinds. 3 infected staggered up the street, then more, spilling from the neighbor's yard. "They're spreading," I said. "We go now." We moved to the garage, Ryan carrying Lily, me on point. The infected were scattered, not a horde yet, but that could change fast. A scream rang out 2 houses down. Sharp, human, drawing their heads like vultures. Our shot. "Quick," I hissed. No sound. Halfway to the car, Lily's shoe caught on a hose, a tiny scrape against the concrete. In the silence, it was a gunshot. Heads turned, moans rising, eyes locking on us. "Run," I snapped. Ryan scooped Lily up, bolting for the sedan as I covered them. The closest one, a woman in a nurse's scrubs, charged, faster than the others. I dropped her with my knife, blade sinking into her skull, then kicked back another. A teen, blood-crusted hoodie, buying seconds. Ryan had the engine running by the time I dove in, infected hands clawing at the trunk. "Go," I yelled. He floored it, tires squealing as we shot out, the pack shrinking in the mirrors. Lily curled into a ball in the back, hands over her ears. "Stay down," I told her, reloading my SIG. Ryan's hands shook, but he drove steady, weaving through the wreckage. "Head east," I said. "Side streets, avoid downtown." He nodded, turning onto a quieter road. Allentown blurred past, houses burning, cars smashed, infected stumbling between. The radio crackled, faint but alive. "Bethlehem evac point operational. Civilians proceed with caution. Military withdrawal imminent." Static swallowed the rest. "They're pulling out," Ryan said, voice tight. "We're cutting it close." "We'll make it," I said, more for Lily than him. She peeked up, eyes big. "Uncle Ethan, are we going to be okay?" I met her gaze, her small face framed by the chaos outside. I could have lied, spun some fairy tale about heroes and happy endings. But she deserved better. "I don't know, Lil," I said, honest. "But I'll fight like hell to keep you and your dad safe. That's a promise." She nodded, clutching her crayon tighter, then dug in her bag. She pulled out a drawing, 3 stick figures, hand in hand, one with a gun. "Me, I figured. For you," she whispered. "When you got here." My throat caught. "Thanks, kiddo," I said, tucking it in my jacket. Ryan glanced over, his eyes saying what words couldn't. We'd lost too much to lose this too. The road to Bethlehem was a gauntlet. Wrecked cars, infected packs, smoke so thick it stung. Ryan drove like a man possessed, dodging threats with a focus I hadn't seen since he was a kid racing me on bikes. Lily uncurled slowly, watching the world blur by, her fear easing into something tougher. 6 years old, and she was growing up too fast. Bethlehem's evac point glowed ahead, floodlights piercing the dusk, helicopters thumping overhead. Soldiers waved us in, rifles bristling, a razor-wire fence holding back a swelling crowd. We rolled up, and I flashed my badge again. "Family," I said, nodding to Ryan and Lily. The guard scanned it, waved us through. "Last chopper's out in 10, he barked. "Move." We ditched the car, joining the scramble. Lily clung to my hand, Ryan hauling the bags. The chopper loomed, a black hawk, blades spinning, soldiers shouting over the roar. We piled in, strapped tight, and lifted off just as the fence buckled, infected pouring through like a flood. The ground fell away, Bethlehem shrinking beneath us. Ryan hugged Lily close, her drawing pressed between them. I leaned back, exhaustion hitting hard. Philly was gone, Hargrove safe, his family too. Now mine was here, alive, beside me. The pilot yelled over the comms, heading to a fallback base, Harrisburg. "Hold tight." Night closed in, the sky streaked with orange from a world on fire. Lily dozed off, head on Ryan's lap, her small hand in mine. "Thanks," Ryan said, voice soft. "For coming back." "Always," I replied, meaning it. The chopper banked west, carrying us into the unknown. Society was dust, the infection unstoppable, but we had each other. That was enough. I thought of Hargrove, of the duty I'd honored, the lives I'd pulled from the wreckage. Then Lily stirred, mumbling about monsters. I squeezed her hand. "It's okay," I said. "Uncle Ethan's here." And I would be, no matter what came next. The world could burn, but I'd keep them safe. That's what family was for. And there you have it, folks. The fall of Philly, a story of grit, heart, and holding on when everything's lost. What did you think? Would you split off like Ethan did, or stick with the group? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. If this hit you hard, smash that like button, share it with your crew, and subscribe if you're new here. We've got more epic tales coming your way. Tell me your city down below, too. Let's see where this story's landed. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and I'll catch you in the next one.